Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing today? Another little patch notes hot fix came out, so we're going over that. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, find it helpful, meaningful, saved your marriage, anything like that, feel free to drop a like and subscribe below. Helps the channel tremendously. Really trying to hit 500, so we're almost there. So if you want to be a part of that in my future journey, feel free to subby. Beyond that, let's get in these notes, guys. Really kind of respecting the team over at Tempo for how quickly they've been kind of putting this stuff out. So pretty exciting, especially for all the Mac, crazy stuff. So yeah, let's see what they got. So Subscraper corrected an issue where this caused an infinite loop. Subscrapers no longer buff other subscrapers. Yeah, basically what was happening is that Subscraper gains value like equal to your other items, or it's like it heals equal to the value of your other items, but it also gives the value of Subscraper to all your other items at the beginning of a fight. So the Subscrapers were infinitely giving each other like back and forth their value. So it would instantly cause like, your Subscraper to heal for infinity and then do whatever other effects for infinity, which obviously isn't fair. So that's why they removed it, and it makes sense. Captain Tool. If you have a vehicle or large item, reduce this item's cooldown by 2.5 seconds. So this is in response to the new cooldown changes, I think. And basically everything was just kind of like, if you reduce its cooldown by half, I'm pretty sure it was just kind of breaking the game a little bit with cooldown reduction. Now I think this is actually better because like I did the math on it, and if you put like 3% cooldown on a captain's wheel, it'll be like 2.3 seconds now instead of like 2.4 seconds, like when its item's cooldown is reduced. So I think it is actually a little better with cooldown, at least in small amounts. So kind of interesting, but I'm sure there was some like unintended interactions with the new cooldown changes when you're like cutting an item's cooldown in half. Same with Rowboat. Silencer is getting nerfed. If you have exactly one weapon, reduce its cooldown by 5, 10, 15, 20%. This is pretty in line with the other cooldown changes they've kind of been feeling for this patch. If you haven't seen those, feel free to check out my other patch notes videos, but really they've been doing a lot of cooldown changes and just trying to like kind of slow down the game in that way. And Silencer is definitely like an overperforming Vanessa item, so taking 5% off at all ranks I think is pretty reasonable, at least in my opinion. Submersible is getting the same treatment. Instead of cutting the cooldown in half, it's getting cut by 3 seconds. This is actually a big deal because I'm pretty sure it getting cut the cooldown in half, you would notice it. Like it was very consistently like 1 second and very strong. Cooling fan, same thing. It was actually like bugged too, where it would stop working if both players had burnt. Didn't catch that. Maybe makes it even a little better in like tech builds because it's like a good quick tech if you're running like railgun or something. Don't think this like enables any build or anything, but I think it's interesting. Dinosaur is 6 seconds, and then change to this item's cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds. If you have at least 4 other dinos, tools, or relics. Yeah, this item was just really crazy. I think late game, when you were like stacking with Dinosaur, Mamasaur, all those little guys, you could just really see the damage being way, way too high. And especially on such a short cooldown, because it was 2.5 or less seconds. So really just kind of bringing that in line, I think is totally fair. Still very strong late game, but 2.5 seconds if you're hitting for like 800 is crazy. Excavation tool, getting the same treatment. Actually, is it? Hold up. Okay, yeah, this is a Mac item, but I didn't see like, excavation tools is a Mac item, I'm pretty sure. Actually, is it? Yeah. Yeah, so I was confused why this was in the dually thing. Same treatment as the other items. The Pearl Navigator, same treatment as the other items. Welding Torch. There's actually a big Welding Torch nerf. Because when its cooldown was cut in half if you had shield, what you could do is you could have like Welding Helmet, and then if your Welding Torch went off at like 6 or 7 seconds, as soon as you had Welding Helmet proc at 4 seconds, it would give you 10 shield, and then Welding Torch's cooldown would become like 3.5 or 3. So it would instantly close the gap on that cooldown, and then it would like instantly proc burn. So this is actually a pretty big Welding Torch nerf, so definitely in the early game dually nerf, I would say Welding Torch is pretty strong. Day 1, Day 2 is like a pretty good burn item. Let's see, Blank Slate, this is the big one. When you use an adjacent relic, charge this 1 second, and freeze items change to 1 second, or freeze targets change to 1 in all tiers. Huge. Absolutely lovely. I believe before it used to charge, or hit up to like 4 targets maybe. So this is really like kind of maybe like maybe at super high levels it's still going to be very strong in terms of like high levels in terms of how well someone plays, but also, day 12, day 13. But it is a lot less, you know, has a lot less ability to just one-shot everybody. Frost Totem, same here, cutting the duration in half. And then, yeah, I believe it used to be 2 seconds, so charging this 1 second is a huge cut. And then big cooldown increase. Again, at Diamond, this is still going to be insane, but reducing it throughout like the regular stages of the game is a big nerf. Carpet's now a relic. Sands of Time, charges 1 second. Soulstone didn't count as a quest item for some reason. Spider Mace is a relic. That could be huge. I don't know. That looks pretty good to me, honestly. And I don't know. Depends on how well like synergistic relic stuff works. But like, for example, if these like relics that you get from the jungle event, it could be really, really good. Speaking of those, they got their values cut in half. This used to give your items gain +5 or +10 poison for the fight and +10 burn for the fight. Cutting it in half. I never really got a chance to use these items because I don't really play Mac. I was trying to make this build work of like a relic dually build. Just didn't feel like I had enough dually relics, but kind of is what it is. But yeah, I could see these items being just super, super broken in Mac and super broken in dually because like it would constantly charge and then it would give your items permanent 10 poison for the fight, and it's just going off and off and off, and it poisons itself, so pretty strong. Warden, yeah, they just took half a second off the freeze. Same thing, it was like comboing with all the other relics and just adding, a tremendous amount of freeze on everything. And charge adjacent items 1 second. So this is actually a buff. It used to be charge adjacent relics 1 second. So maybe this item gets a lot more play in like Pig, Dooley, Vanessa. Just because like Ice Watch Warden I believe worked, like it works in the sense that like when you do a bunch of effects it charges. So now if it charges adjacent items 1 second, it makes it a lot more versatile. And then Stinger, you get this from like Mosquito, or like Kyber Drone, whatever. And it was a horrible item, but now it actually kind of scales a lot better. So 7 seconds, so 3 second cooldown, or 3 seconds removed from the cooldown. Then it can slow multiple items, only for a second, but slowing multiple items is really nice just because like you can go to Curio, you can get things that increase your slow cooldown. In my personal opinion, it's usually better to slow multiple targets than one for a really long time. Not always, but often. And then small refresh is changed back to the old small refresh when you use a small item each fight, heal 5, 10, 15, 20. Basically, with the old cleanse changes, it used to be every time you healed, you would cleanse 10%. So small refresh was every time you healed, cleanse, 10% of all of your burn and poison. So every time you use a small item, you cleanse basically, 10% of all your burn and poison. Pretty nuts. It's still, I think, actually a really good skill in the sense that, like, every time you use a small item, you're still going to cleanse a burn, still cleanse a poison, but it's not going to be like crazy oppressive or anything. So, still totally works really well with like heal effects and stuff too. Anyways, guys, those are all the notes. I would say in general, again, kind of restructuring how cooldown works, silencer nerf, dino nerf, and then Mac freeze nerf, and then just a few other like minor changes in here, kind of like legendary relic nerf. But yeah, we'll have to see how this plays. But pretty interesting changes, and yeah, we'll have to see. Definitely Freeze Mac was horrible to play against. So hopefully the game is in a better state now. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, again, please drop a like and subscribe. Helps the channel tremendously. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Take care.